Hey everybody, Derek Floyd here, Beautiful Now Podcast. Welcome to another edition of Chasing the Impossible. This is the segment where I interview special guests who seem to have done impossible things along the way on their journey to let you know no matter how far your dream may seem, how impossible it may be to reach, if they can reach their impossible dream, then you can reach yours too. And hey, if you love the content you see here, do me a favor, pause right now, hit me with a like or subscribe to the channel and hit the little bell right next to it. This lets me get the most updated content to you as soon as it's available. But the most important thing you can do for me right now, if you really love it, is just share it with a friend. Because we want everybody to leave our segments uplifted, encouraged, and inspired. Now, if you love Christian hip hop like me, then you probably know artists like Lecrae, Andy Mineo, KB, Propaganda, Toby Mac. There's so many out there giving us great beats, but with great lyrics to talk about some good stuff in the head, keeping it positive, right? Well, today's special guest is one of those premier groups that's come out of the woodwork, but then been doing it for almost 10 years. And they have taken the world by storm. And this group I know you're going to love. And I've got one half of this incredible deal here to talk about what it takes to be in the hip hop circle on the Christian side, and how the industry's changed, and what they can do to keep things positive for all of us out there looking for a beat with a message. So will you please help me welcome my friend, the man, the myth, the legend, yeah, I'm going to go there, Mr. Martin Santiago, Marty from my boys social club, Misfits. Are you
What's
in the
going
house, man?
on?
Talk to me, talk to me.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me, Derek. We are real friends.
Yes,
That's not just something
yes,
we say, and appreciate you. You've
exactly.
invested in my life and a lot of what I do today. I mean, as a producer, I actually, if you
Man.
see behind me, I got the speakers, the iLouds.
Let's see
They
what's up.
work
Look, look, look.
great.
Oh, I see him in the
Come
back. I
on.
see him.
I got the iLoud right here. If I could pull it out, it's still connected to
I
my
see
wire.
one in
I
the
got the
corner right now. I
iLoud.
see it in the
Yeah,
other
I
corner.
got
It's
the
all good.
iLoud. I was testing out the rig today. So good. You've invested in me. Thank you for everything. Thank you for having me.
Man, man, I just appreciate what you're doing, man. It's been a blessing to know you. And like you said, we've been friends for a long time. And we lost touch. And it's been great to just connect again
Yeah.
and to see you doing so well in the kingdom and doing great things, man. Such a blessing.
Thank you for having me.
Well, man, as I said before, the people just want to hear your story. So I'm just going to jump right in and get going with this so we can see what Marty's all about.
Yeah.
So, at Social Club Misfits, you guys have been together, you and your boy Fern, for a long time.
10 years. 10 years. This year
So
is 10
10
years.
years, huh? Wow.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to know, of course, how did you meet? Talk to me.
Yeah. Yeah. So at the time, I had a very toxic situation at the church I was at. And my pastor was having an inappropriate relationship. And, I basically kicked me out on a Sunday when it was just a mess, and I left church feeling kind of hopeless. And so at the time, I was connecting with a lot of my radio friends because I was, you're trying to figure out where you belong after you work at a church and you're like, I thought I was gonna be a pastor. I thought I was gonna go up and, maybe have my own church one day. And that wasn't the plan I think God had for me. And so I remember connecting with one of my buddies. He had a Miami radio station. And so at the time when I was getting out of my situation, Fern was getting out of prison. So we actually met at two big crossroads in our life. And we met at the radio station, and Fern had like 8 songs that he brought, and he was like, hey, he just kept doing remixes for the station. And everyone was like, man, this guy is so good. He's not part of the friend loop. He's like kind of an outsider, and he's just great. And so how do we connect with them? And I was like, let's do a song together. I would love to. I wasn't really rapping. I had just started making music. Little by little, we were like, we kind of need to start making a name for this group because we have like 30 songs now. And it kind of started like that. We met at a radio station, and God kind of, I don't know how God does that, where he just makes everything work
He's
out.
amazing, bro.
To me, I mean, I just feel like, look, I think in the moment for a lot of us, we think, like, where is this headed? What's God, I think we think in our mind, like, oh, we have a plan of how it should work out. So when it works out
Right.
differently, there's a lot of that faith. So for us, it was working out completely different than we thought.
Did,
Fern wanted to be a solo artist. I wanted to be a solo artist. And we ended up being a
wow.
group. Yeah.
So was it an instant connection? You guys just felt like, we got something
Yeah.
kind of cool here.
Instantly
We just kind
friends.
of vibe. Instant
Yeah.
friends.
Fast friends. And we both have the same mission. I think the why behind what we do is we like to create good music, but with the lifestyle aspect of
Yeah, yeah.
Christianity at the forefront. Like I'm not really the guy who's I can person to person, but I really can't. I don't know how to really talk about scripture via rap. It's just not my
Right.
thing. I like to talk about lifestyle and what I'm going through and marriage, relationships, the industry, and just kind of who I am and just transparent on what I do. And
I
so
love
that's
it.
what we bring. Yeah.
That's cool, man. I mean, people never know how. There's so many duos how they got together, like a Hall and Oates, people like that. They come
Yeah.
together and there's magic, and you go, how does that magic happen, right? And
Yeah. It
it's
just
like,
kind of
of course,
happens.
for King and Country, they're brothers, but it's cool. Their magic is amazing, stuff like that. So it's
Yeah.
cool to see what duos do, and it's cool that you guys found a way to be friends right away, and it
Yeah,
worked.
yeah,
It clicked.
absolutely. And it
That's
was,
cool.
I mean, I think it's important. It's held us, we've been here for 10 years, it's funny
Wow,
how time flies. And I think
it
about the whole
certainly
time,
flies.
all the worry I've had, throughout the 10
Yeah.
years, as any job you have, you just worry about the future and what's going to happen. And, God, I look back, I'm like, I wasted a lot of time worrying. So,
Yeah, that's a
yeah.
biggie. My wife and I talk about worry all the time, and we just had a pastor come by our church. We go to Elevation Worship,
Yeah.
and this pastor, I think his name was Jabin Shebez, I think was his name. He said, why do we worry? We might as well just be courageous. He said, because worry isn't going to change it. So I might
Yeah.
as well take some courage and get up and do this thing because it ain't going to help me get any faster worrying about it.
Right.
I was like,
Yeah.
heck yeah, that's the way to think about it. So, anyways, we can go off on
Sure.
that all day long.
Yeah.
You guys got together. What was the original mission of the group, and do you feel like you guys have stayed true to it after 10 years?
Yeah, I think the original vision of the group was just to make, I mean, it was just to make great music, and be honest about what we do. So, Social Club, the name Social Club comes from the idea of there's this, in New York, there was tons of social clubs. You could, and social clubs were gatherings where guys had their clubs, girls had their clubs. And the idea was it was a place, a safe place to talk about life and business and who you are. It's like almost like a boys club, I guess. I don't explain it, but it's fun when you build relationships and stuff. So we wanted social club to be a safe place to talk about, you know, our struggles with Christian culture, with as a human, our questions, our wins, our victories with God. And so that has always been the center of what we do. And so why? It's kind of just to give freedom to other people by talking about, what God's done in my life. I think that for us, it's easier. It's easy to hear like, oh, God is good God. But when you actually live it out and you can say like, listen, I could tell you from my experience, this is why God's a good God. It changes the conversation a little bit. It's like I've been through it. I could talk about it. I don't just I don't just tell you this for your health, but I could tell you that this recipe it worked for me. And so that was kind of like the idea is two guys who loved Jesus just talking about as honest as possible, God. And
And
so
you
for
feel like
us
you
at the time,
stayed
the
true to
industry
that?
didn't have that. Yeah, 100%. Because I think at the time, like it wasn't a thing. At the time when we came in, there were rappers breaking down. 13 Letters was the big album when we came out, which was talking about the New Testament. And for a guy, for me, I just gotten saved. So I remember hearing a song where they were like, Paul said, and I'm like, who's Paul? I didn't know Paul was in the Bible. I just got
Wow.
saved. I had no idea. So for someone
That's when
like
you're
me,
really green. You're
yeah,
just figuring it out, right?
yeah. I mean, I didn't even know. I was like, why is the Bible separated? Like, I was like, how did this happen? And so
Wow.
for me, I had so many questions. And so I wanted to make music that really reflected that for people who are getting to know God and honestly just want some encouragement. It's not really, we always feel like, people always tell us, you're supposed to be preachers. No, we're artists and this is our life. This is what we live. We talk about how we live, and if it encourages you, if it makes you feel like you're not alone, that's the point of it. And so we've carried that mission for the last 10 years.
Wow. 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 Well, speaking of that and the music business, the Christian hip hop business, so to speak, is tough out there. A lot of critics.
There.
Some people believe what you do. People think it's a farce. Some people just think it's whack. Some people think you're trying to copy others. I mean, there's so much going on with that. How hard has it been finding your place in the industry and being validated from either your peers or from the industry itself?
So mainstream has never really been we haven't really tried to cross over. We're happy in where we're at. We're happy in the Christian space, and any win that we get outside of that, we're happy to have it. But we really feel like when you come to our product, it's almost like a subgenre of a subgenre. So it's like Christian Christian music, Christian hip hop. It's like we're getting smaller in this little. But I feel like for us as you know, how long is Toby Mac? How long is the Crowders and King of Countries, King of Countries going to exist in this space? As they get older, who's the next generation? We've always wanted to be that next generation. So I guess that's really where our heights are set.
Nice, nice. And being unique and having your own space, which is like you were talking about before, is a must do.
Yeah.
Like you said, there's so much out there, and with the Christian hip hop industry, there's a lot of people that have crossed over. There's the Lecrae's and the Andy Minios and the
Yep.
KBs. Now, these cats have done some great things and opened up Christian hip hop in a unique way.
Yeah.
I feel like you guys carved out a whole nother niche, though. When I hear your music, I'm like, these cats are doing something pretty different. And I love that you're not trying to cross over. You just allow the
Yeah.
music to speak for itself, which makes the
Yeah.
biggest difference, I think, as far as artists, right?
Yeah, and also we have tons of crossover songs and stuff that just happens. Like we
Hmm.
were looking at the stats on TikTok, and our music is played 2 million times a week. So
What?
yeah, I know that's odd, and so that's why we had to get on TikTok, because what was happening was there was a lot of people claiming the songs that weren't theirs, and so
Oh,
people
wow.
couldn't find out who actually owned the song, and so we made an account so that they could come to us. So I've been working on
Crazy.
TikTok, and luckily all the stuff that you send is helping me out with TikTok, and I
Man, there you
appreciate
go.
you. And
Yes, sir.
yeah,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And you just think, just as an artist, think about how much has changed from when you first started to now, 10 years ago. How social media has become. You have to have some kind of social media platform
have
to
to,
even
have to.
promote. It's become the
Frustrating.
secondary part of your business. You can be an artist,
100%.
but you got to have a social media manager managing your brand out there. Even
Yep.
as a Christian hip hop artist, right?
Yeah, I do it all myself. That's the hard part, I think.
Oh, it's
Yeah, I
crazy,
know. I
man.
was gonna hire somebody. It's funny. I was actually hiring somebody, and within 1 week, I had to fire him. I just wasn't gonna work out because
Uh,
I just think that people think it's a lot easier than it is, and it's hard. It's hard to. I mean, I
mm-hmm,
constantly have to create new music.
mm-hmm.
I produce the majority of Social Club stuff, so I'm producing our stuff. I'm writing the majority of it because I'm writing a lot of the courses and stuff. I'm trying to A&R it, plus do social media,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot on the shoulders of an artist, and
Yeah,
it's
man.
difficult. And if you don't know how to do it all, it's just not going to work. It's not the business for you. Some artists don't have to. Like some genres, you don't have to do it. Like hip hop, you absolutely have to. I mean, you have Drake now gonna get. All these big artists are
Yeah.
coming over, and it just it speaks to the power of social media and the generation that you want to reach. You want to
Yeah.
reach younger, up and coming fans mixed with and really TikTok is it's honestly better than Instagram. Instagram is great, but TikTok is really amazing. So
I have not got on it yet, and I just have zero time to manage another platform.
oh
So
yeah,
one
yeah.
day I'll get there,
So
but I
Twitter
got way
is
too much going
yeah,
on to have
Twitter's hot.
another platform.
Yeah, so that's how I think about it. Twitter's kind of on its way out. Not Twitter's more of a news source, it's becoming news
Right,
related.
right,
Then you
right.
have Instagram, which is kind of the main platform for a lot of artists, and then you have TikTok, which is like how songs are breaking now. So they both play their roles.
Sure,
And then
sure.
it's interesting because like you have Facebook, where most people are actually on Facebook.
Hmm.
So you have to balance all four of those, and then if there's
You
another
do,
one,
man.
it's just a lot, so much. I'm
So,
tired.
saying all of that, all the things you're doing, and all the great records you produced 10 years later, do you feel like you guys have found success, and what does that look like for you?
Yeah, success for me, it's not really money related. It's always going to be impact related. I'm not content on where I'm at. I don't listen to my music and I'm like, this is the best I could do. I always have this hunger to do more and more and more and more. And so that's kind of how I see our band. I always have a craving to do more and work harder and make better songs. And so, this 2020 has really taught me the importance of community and how
Hmm.
important it is to have people around you. And so I just left. I worked 24 hours in Atlanta on some Reach Record stuff with Andy Mineo, and then I have a couple songs hopefully on the new Lecrae album. For me, it's constantly just an evolution of you are an artist, but an artist captures a lot of I guess aspects. So for me, it's impact. I want to have the song. I mean, I have two gold records, which to me is awesome. Besides Lecrae, there's no other Christian artist who has Christian hip hop artist who has two gold records. And so, impact
That's
is the
pretty
most
powerful,
important.
brother.
Yeah, kind of cool. I mean,
Yeah.
I was at the Reach Studio. I think Coming in Hot is about to be gold, hopefully soon. I love those guys. But I was at the
Wow.
Reach Record Studio and I'm looking. There's so many platinum plaques. They're all Lecrae. And then I was like, man, I have an NF plaque, that song that went gold. I'm on the song "You Can't Stop Me" with Andy Mineo.
Nice, man.
Yeah, for me, it's like all about impact. And so I always felt like if I chased the money, I wouldn't have the impact that I
It's
wanted
so true.
because money follows impact. It
Hmm.
doesn't precede it. And so we've been offered a lot of money to do a lot of things, and it just wasn't the move. And then sometimes you'll organically come into a situation where, like You Can't Stop Me. I just happened to be in New York. I walked in the studio, I screamed it, and it was over. I wasn't planning on it. So like
Wow.
things just happen that quick, and you just gotta, as an artist, you gotta be fluid in everything you do.
I love it. I love it. And that's going to bring me to my next question because we're talking about being an artist and being out there and being in the industry and how the industry has its own culture. The hip hop
Yeah,
culture has a different vibe to it. It has a swagger to it, and a lot of people see it negatively. But you've been out there for a long time, and you've seen artists, come and go, and you've seen the whole thing change. Do you feel like hip hop culture sways the actual Christian hip hop industry, or do you think the hip hop industry sways culture, or do you have an effect
yeah,
either way? What do you think?
yeah. I think that hip hop definitely affects Christian culture, Christian hip hop culture,
Hmm.
because there's so. I think we're in a paradox of you have a lot of Christian artists who want to break out and get to the next level, and
Hmm.
you have to be aware and have your finger on the pulse of what's happening in the mainstream. It just
Hmm.
is what it is because the leaders of what we do are in the mainstream. As much as we would love to say Lecrae leads us, even he is going to look at the Kendricks and what's Kendrick doing, what's J. Cole
Hmm.
doing,
Hmm.
what's Drake doing. And I think that there's a healthy way of balancing, like, okay, what they do, let me filter it out and how it will apply to me. Because, you think about soundscapes, just soundscapes alone, and 20, the soundscape was different than 2021. And you listen to a record in 2016, the production has totally changed. Although
Hmm.
people would be like, oh, it's still hip hop. Things have changed, and they change that quick. It always that we rely on underground. Really, it's interesting. It's
Hmm.
like we rely on the major players, but then we also rely on the underground, and then we combine it. We've kind of fit in the middle. So I think
Nice.
Christian culture, the Christian hip hop culture is completely different than mainstream. But as and sound wise, we definitely look to the underground, look to the elder. We're
Hmm.
few artists have their own sound and what they
Hmm.
do. It's hard to find. It's hard to navigate them. I'm going to be completely honest with you. Even
Hmm.
for what Social Club does, it's extremely hard to navigate the waters of where we're at. We're in the subculture, but we also want to make an impact. And I believe that we do make an impact, but it's harder. I think it's harder for us than any other genre, to be honest, because there are also different hip hop genres as well. There's
Sure. Sure.
there's so you're dealing with, okay, you have Christian hip hop, then you have like the melodic artists, and then the hardcore trap,
Hmm.
and then you have horror rap, and then you have pop rap. And it's like all these different landscapes of what hip hop is, and hip
Sure.
hop is just hip hop. It's interesting.
Do you think that your views affect those outside? Like if you meet a Drake or meet a producer or someone outside the mainstream, do you feel like your views as Christianity can actually make a difference on that side? Do you think they sway people the other way? Because I feel like sometimes people get around and get in the world and they do their thing as Christian hip hop artists, but they let that person's lifestyle, that person's views kind of
Yeah,
start to distort what they're doing because they're living that big high life, whatever it may be. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah. I definitely think that there's a lot of artists who are influenced by mainstream, whether it's you just see in the fashion style or
Hmm.
in the lyrical style that they have. Um, just knocked out my headphone. And so, but
It's all
I
good.
think that it's important for the artists like us, like Social Club, and to be connected to community. I think once we lose community, you lose who you are. And so that's what I was saying earlier. Community is so important because who you are around says a lot about who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have the right people around you, your music is gonna start sounding a certain way. I think that the cool thing is there are a lot of relationships behind the scenes
Mm-hmm.
of people. We meet mainstream artists all the time, or we talk about our stories, and a lot of them see what we do, and they're like, "I wish I could do what you do." And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
"Why?" Because a lot of them are like, "Dude, I have to perform at 3 in the morning
Yeah.
at a strip club. You get to
Yeah.
perform at 7:30, 8 o'clock at a club,
Right.
and you're out by 11. We're the artists who have
Yeah.
to be there at 12. Like I was looking at
Oh yeah.
a festival in Texas the other day where the doors opened at 3. The artist didn't perform till 12, and I'm like, that's a long time to be
That's
waiting
a
for your
long
favorite artist.
time, man.
So we've talked to artists, and they're like, "Man, you guys are so lucky. You guys performed at 8. We're off stage at 8:30, 9:30. We'll do mainstream clubs. I mean, you came to our show. We had a show, and I forgot where it was, but
Yeah.
we do clubs, and sometimes we
Yeah.
have packed out. Like
Mhm.
sometimes it's a couple hundred, whatever we
Yeah.
do. We always
Yeah.
try to end by like 11 because I'm like, what? This is the show. I want to end at 11. And so, but some artists are like, dude, I had to perform at 3 in the morning after 10
Oh
other artists.
no.
It's just a hustle. And most artists don't, most mainstream artists don't make it to the place where they actually have fans.
Right.
The
Right.
song might have fans, but the artist might not. It's
I
almost like
got
the
you.
idea of like Hollywood right now. The franchise has a lot of pull, but the actors sometimes don't. So you could break a
Yeah.
new actor off a franchise. You
Yeah.
hear Marvel. I don't care who plays Iron Man. I mean,
Right.
as long as he plays him good. And unfortunately, that's the reality of the situation with TikTok. It's all
Mm-hmm.
about the song rather than the artist. So we're
Ah.
lucky enough to have actual fans that want to see us and will pay 30,
Wow.
$40 for a ticket. So
That's what's
we're
up, man. That's
blessed.
what's up.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that music, man. With so many amazing producers out there,
Yeah.
there's a lot of them out in the field, and you are producing as well. How do how do you create the right vibe for each record? I mean, do you pick a producer for each record, or do you just start off with the track and go from there?
Usually I try. I mean, the last album we did, I produced about 80% of it. Just a lot of trial and error of just playing and then seeing if it works, and this doesn't work, and then and then a lot of times I'll pass it off to somebody, an idea. It's hard, it's hard to. This last album was definitely difficult for me to do because I was trying to do it all. I just wanted to do it all, and it just wasn't worth it. Or worth, I could have relied on so many other people to help me out, and instead, I'm still a new producer trying to figure things out. I think for this next project we're going to work on, I definitely have some people that I reach out to that I love what they create. There's a guy named Juice Bangers. He's a young kid, but he's such a great producer. And then, I like young guys. I always look for who's the newest, youngest guy.
Mm,
A part of what we do because I like working with the new and up and coming guy because I feel like he's
sure.
hungrier.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He's more willing to hear out new ideas and try things. And so sometimes I work with bigger producers or bigger songwriters, and there's an ego about them, and there's something about them that's it's throwing me off a little bit. I don't know if it's going to
Yeah.
work out. I've been in rooms with people, and immediately it's the first question is who have you written with?
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I think that that's a loaded question because it's like, are you testing me to see, if the
Right.
songs, and then in the mainstream, they don't even do that. I've been in a
Yeah.
lot of mainstream sessions, and they're just all about finishing the song, getting it completed, rather than
Sure.
who's writing. It's just a different world. And
Right.
so there's a lot of
Wow.
unchecked ego, I think, in the Christian music industry that
Hmm.
is getting checked. I think 2020 checked us all.
Who
But
knew?
yeah, yeah, it's true. Who knew?
Wow.
Who knew that God was going to check us all? Not, you know.
Well, you had a lot of collabs on the Feared by Hell record, which was killer. I
Yeah.
finally got to check it out. It was fire.
Thank
A
you.
lot of collabs on that record. So, as I listened to back and forth as you were writing the tracks, I'm sure, did you have those collabs in mind when you were writing, or did you go, I wish I could have a style like this, and the label gave you a producer or collaborative artist to go with you? How did it always start with collabs?
Yeah. So I'll pick a random song, right? So a song like Luau. Luau. It's a
Mm-hmm.
summer song that we have. We're gonna
Mm-hmm.
we actually have a remix project coming out in a month with all the songs we produced. But Luau, I produced it and I wrote the chorus, and I actually was like, man, I'm wondering who I could put on this to give it an extra edge. And
Mm-hmm.
so instantly I thought of a new signee from Reach called Hovey, who I love. And I was like, I think he'll fit perfectly. And actually, I had his verse before Fern's verse. So we actually had a whole song done, and I produced it, wrote it, and I was like, who would fit well. I think a lot of this is like, what we do is we always try to showcase new producers, new artists, and so
Hmm.
even on a song like let me think, like a song like Young Guns. Young Guns, I wrote that song with Evan Kraft and there's me and Evan Kraft. We wrote that song together, and so I remember hearing back and being like, who could take this to the level of how we wrote it? Like who was gonna?
Hmm.
And so I hit my manager up. My manager's like, actually, I have a really good guy. His name is Davies. He's like, you've probably never heard of him, and it's totally cool.
Hmm.
But let him let's do it on spec. So like, let's see how it works. And so when he sent it back, I was like, wow, you gave this a whole new life. And so sometimes we've asked people to do songs and it just wasn't good. And it could be a huge artist and it's like, it's not
Sure.
good. The label really gives me freedom to do whatever I want.
Well,
So
that's
as
cool.
long as, yeah, as long as they
So
get,
they're not making you take somebody. You're just saying,
never,
I wish I could
never,
try this
never.
person. This would sound
Yeah,
good.
it's mostly me, and I'll reach out to management. I'll be like, hey, what do you think will fit on here? For the most part, that's how it works.
Hmm.
We, I mean, yeah, I usually just go through management and say, hey, who do you hear on this? But for the most part, I A&R the majority of our projects. But we have a great team at Capital who helps oversee things. So, like, I have a guy that I work with, Josh Bailey, who's our A&R, who's great. And he gives
Hmm.
me great feedback on like, hey, this is how you take this on to the next level, and so forth. But for the most part, I have a lot of freedom
That's
in
cool. I mean,
Capital.
so when you're writing a track though, do you instantly think this is gonna be a collab, or do you get done with it and you go, it needs something. Let's bring
Usually at
somebody
the
on
end,
it.
usually at the tail end. Usually
Okay.
at the end,
Yeah.
I'm like, I feel like it's good, but I think that's the goal of an artist is like, all right, albums. Really, the album was done, and I was like, what are we missing here? At the time, we didn't have any features. I was like, what are we missing? And so I was like,
So the record was
who's
finished,
kind of, yeah, it was pretty much
and
done. I mean,
wow.
besides a couple of songs where like there's a song called Somos Familia, which is a Spanish song. We wrote that as well. I wrote that with a guy named Sam Ash and Andy in Atlanta or in Nashville, and I remember and also Evan Kraft, and I remember writing that song, and my the producer who was helping me produce, Sam, who's a really good guy, one of my best friends, he was like, man, you know who would sound good? Blanca, this Latin artist, and she's on the come up in this new Latin world that she's working towards.
Mhm.
And so he asked her, and instantly she recorded, and I was like, wow, this. Sometimes it's just God makes everything work out together in a really cool way. So it
Wow.
depends. For the most part, though, it'll be tail end. I'm asking somebody, I'm reaching out, can you do this with us? And that's how
I
it
got
goes.
you. I got you.
Yeah.
Now it sounds like a lot of the heavy lifting is on your side between you and Fern. What is Fern's role in the group, and how does he bring value?
Yeah, I mean, Fern we're a group 50-50. So I think Fern allowing me to, go forth and kind of, I'm definitely a workaholic. When I set my mind to something, I'm gonna do it. I got to knock it out. And
Hmm.
so for me, luckily I have a business partner who is like, hey man, go for it, try it out, and then he's always available for anything I need, anything we got. But for the
Hmm.
most part, he gives me that freedom, which I've been in conversations with other people, and they're like, thank God you have that, because some artists don't. I don't think I could have two me's in the group. We would totally implode. You need someone who could. You
you
need someone
you
who
would
could sit
not get
back and be
along
like,
with yourself.
yeah, yeah. Especially how fast I work. I work so fast. I'm always on the next thing. And so I think prefer he's great at being like, hey man, like how about we do this, and how about we, he's always giving feedback and a part of the song and the process, and it's great to have a business partner who does that, and I'm really happy that the group dynamic works the way it does, and Fern handles actually all the merchandise, all that style side of the band, and so it's good to have that, and a lot of times, I think the last album was a little bit different. A lot of times we're in the studio, but for the most part, last year I just produced everything literally in this room, sent it out. Everything was via
Hmm.
email. This
Yeah.
album. So
Hey, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed this segment today. Unfortunately, due to some technical difficulties, we lost the last few minutes of Marty's interview with us, but we hope you've enjoyed what you've seen so far, and we're definitely going to bring him back to talk about more things happening with Social Club Misfits. And as always, we look forward to seeing you again at the Beautiful Now podcast, Chasing the Impossible series. If you like